There's always a party in Montana. Whether you're going to a wedding, a football game, a concert, Montana Party Bus can get you there safe and will take you anywhere in Montana. You can relax with friends in style, luxury, and safety. Western Montana based for local and regional travel within Montana borders, Montana Party Bus is great for both large and small groups with a capacity of up to 30 guests. If you want to elevate your event, call them anytime, 406-200-8096. You can also visit mtpartybus.com. Travel anywhere in Montana in style with the Montana Party Bus. Big Sky Breakdown, proudly presented by the Bobcat Collective at Montana State. The Bobcat Collective is the NIL collective that serves Montana State University student athletes. The collective is partnered with Montana State to connect fans, alumni, businesses, and local nonprofits with Montana State student athletes. Opportunities through the collective allow student athletes to earn compensation while serving the greater Montana State University community. Sign up now for memberships and enjoy automatic entry into raffles for free tickets while supporting the bright minds at Montana State. They have multiple different membership tiers, and you can also be a one-time supporter, and you can also business partner or corporate supporter. Visit bobcatcollective.com for more. Well, beautiful day in the Magic City. Looks like summer there as Mike Ryder joins us here on Riding with Ryder. What's up, man? How you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Yeah, beautiful fall day, a little bit chilly in the morning, and then we get to these nice temps. I think it's going to be 85. Still got that summer feel, which is good. I'll hold on to that as long as possible.
Yeah. So let's do the ESPN radio thing. I have an ESPN radio show. I try to not do the ESPN radio thing, but we got to do an ESPN radio style question because this is the question everybody's asking me.
Okay.
Where is your panic meter on Montana State going 0-2 to start the season? I have my answer already well prepared for this, but what do you think in terms of where the Cats are at right now going into week 3?
Boy, if you were to say 1 is no panic, 10 is a full panic, I'd probably put it at a 3. The reality of the situation is a couple things. Me included, in the Bobcat world, have pretty accompanied and accustomed to rather seeing Bobcat football on a different level of success. So I want to start with that, but also seeing it from a different style of play with running at will, offensive line that's just been absolutely dominant for, I don't know, Colter. You and I have been having the same talk track. It seems, every week. Oh, yeah, guy goes down, pull another offensive lineman, get him in the rotation. And I still think they're going to be really, really good. But we've been accustomed to that. And people aren't really understanding the fact of like the difficulties behind replacing 2 coordinators. That is, from the coaching perspective, like that is so challenging. People just think it's like, oh yeah, we're going to roll the same people out there and, and it's going to look the same. It just can't. It can't possibly do that. By the way, we've got a brand new quarterback, which is the most pivotal position on the field, and everybody knows that. And so I think all that to say, you start with a game like Oregon, just call what it is. You cannot evaluate you can't evaluate a $40 million roster against Montana State. It doesn't work. It doesn't pencil. Okay, so take that one out of the equation. You look at last week, and there's 5 teams in the FCS that are capable of, quite frankly, winning the national championship, and all of them are built pretty similarly. And so last week, I think there's so much to be encouraged by. With specifically, I look at the defense and what the Bobcat defense did. I was really, really impressed, given some of the shoes that they're filling, but just from the run fit perspective, I think Cole Taylor, you mentioned him a couple of weeks ago. I'm really impressed by him. Secondary looked good. You see some Montana guys in there. A lot of them, seeing J.J. Dolan in there contributing. So I think defense looked great, Colter. A defensive front looked solid. And then offensively, they're just looking for a little bit of an identity, and that's true. But what we said last week was the competition and just the competitive spirit behind Justin Lamson. I think that was evident. A guy that can run, it's going to look different. It may not be quarterback direct run and design run, but he has the ability to get out of the pocket. He's really, really competitive, and they're going to continue to find their niche. What does the run game look like? That was a really good South Dakota State defense. That's always going to be the case. So, again, long-winded answer, but the bottom line is they're still finding their groove. It is week one. It is a challenging thing to two coordinators find your groove. You got some young players in pivotal roles, a new starting quarterback. And then the last thing I'll say is they're going into a schedule that is pretty advantageous if you look at it. The Big Sky, I think, is always going to be challenging. And there's some of those teams like Idaho State at home that's going to come prepared late in the season. But I think the schedule falls in their favor. It's not overly difficult in my estimation as you look forward. You got UC Davis late at home. The Grizz on the road will be challenging. I think the toughest game that they're going to have is going to be at NAU personally. That's a really hard place to play. Coach Wright has those boys going. Playing really, really well. So, but I do think the schedule's advantageous. So no need to panic. I put it at a 3, long-winded answer. But you got to be realistic in terms of where Bobcat football is and where it's going. Still in really good hands, and you're always going to have a home field advantage in Bobcat Stadium. That place was electric last Saturday evening.
Thanks so much for listening to the Big Sky Breakdown podcast series and for tuning into our Skyline Sports YouTube channel. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe to both the podcast and all your various podcast hosted networks and to the YouTube channel as well. Thanks to our great partners, including Ryan Miller and Coburn Law. Ryan Miller and Coburn are ace attorneys, each with different expertise. Paul Ryan, the master when it comes to DUIs. Angie Miller, excellent in medical malpractice. Abigail Coburn, federal drug charges. She's the one you want defending you. They can help in any and all sorts of criminal defense cases. They have a live answering service that's available 24 hours a day, 406-542-2233. You can also visit rmcattorneys.com. Ryan and Miller and Coburn, your Montana attorneys. Let's hear from RMC right now. Tell me about the expansion. You have now 2 partners. Angie's been with you for a while, but now Abigail joins the team as well. Yeah. So just tell me about how this has all been going.
Really exciting about both of them, starting with Angie, who's came to us before she even started law school. And she's just developed into such an amazing attorney and person and friend, frankly. I can't be more happy with her and her results. She's such a hard worker and a fighter, and we're just so pleased to have her carry the torch into the future. And then with regard to Abigail, another great story. She had interned for our office when she was going to law school. And then after she graduated, she did other things. And then we were really fortunate. It was a chance meeting at the courthouse, and everything just came together. And the timing was right for her, and the timing was right for us to bring her on. And she's been amazing. She is such a tough attorney. And she takes on very, very difficult cases, and her results are amazing. And it's just a perfect fit for all of us.
I'm putting mine at 0.
I love it.
Maybe 1. Because here's the thing. Here's what I've seen. I know this is really hard for people to really splice through because there is so much emotion attached to it. And so many of the people listening to this are, they're sitting in the stands, or they're doing all these things. And this is coming from somebody that's watched each of the first 2 games three full times through and really gotten, into the nitty gritty of it all. Last year's Montana State team plays this exact same schedule, and there's still a chance they're 0-2. So I think that the narrative of everything that they lost is being overplayed at this exact moment. From what I've seen in terms of pure personnel evaluation and execution evaluation, Montana State is as good or better defensively than they were a year ago. And I know that's crazy to say that they're giving up 40 points a game, and they lost, McCain O'Reilly and Danny Ulakepa and Brody Grebe and Rylan Orton, all these guys that were pivotal pillars of their program. But I think that they're executing at a really high level right now. I think the front is playing just as well as it was a year ago. I think the linebackers are flying around. I think that the secondary is fearless. I think those guys have no idea what the hell they're doing, but I don't think it matters because they are playing with so much heart and so much aggressiveness. Like I really can't remember a whole. I remember specific DBs, like corners. I'm talking that have played with their hair on fire like the Montana State guys are now. I can't really ever remember them having four though that can do it like they do. I mean, the fact that all four of those guys are just getting a baptism by fire, I think helps them. And then I think that they're as good or better at the offensive skill positions. I'm not going to say Justin Lamson's as good as Tommy Mellott, but he's a very good quarterback who is a different style than Mellott, which I think can help you. To me, the two places that they are completely uh, downgraded is too harsh of a word. Not playing up to the standard that was established the last couple of years is offensive line and tight end. The tight ends are just young. I think those
Yep.
guys are going to come along, and the offensive line is completely reshuffled. I think that though you mentioned two things: the coaching staff reshuffling and the offensive line reshuffling, and how they've been able to do it so seamlessly. They've done each of those two things so seamlessly multiple times in Brent Vegan's tenure. They made it look easy. It's not easy. Like you can reshuffle your offensive line when you have three pros. It's not
Yep.
as easy when you have two redshirt freshmen and a sophomore. That's a totally different thing. So I think that they're
Yep.
still fighting that battle. The other part I would mention is that the Oregon game, you completely throw it out the window because first of all, there was a comment on our last YouTube because we were talking about Oregon's $40 million payroll. Somebody said there's no way you guys are exaggerating, you're making stuff up. What did Mike Gundy lead with in his press conference after his Oklahoma State Cowboys got beat 69-3? He said,
Yeah.
we can't compete with $40 million payroll. To put this in perspective for the listeners, Oklahoma State, which is one of the richest football programs in the country,
Slim
have
Pickens.
oil money
Yep.
for days.
Yep.
They have a $7 million payroll. So Oregon has almost seven times as much money going towards their roster as Oklahoma State. And Oklahoma State was down 69-3 going into the fourth quarter on Saturday before everybody called off the dogs. Oregon could have scored 100 in that game. So throw that game out. I actually think a 59-13 loss, as much as it sounds like a complete blowout, is actually a pretty good effort for Montana State in that one. And then I thought on Saturday night, I thought that personnel aside and all that sort of stuff aside, there was so much energy, but also so much tension in the arena in the stadium. And I think both teams played with tremendous heart, tremendous passion, but also really, really tight. Uh,
Yeah.
It was like a semifinal playoff game. It just happened to be the second week of the year, right? These guys
Yeah.
were, and they know the history between the two schools and how much they battled it out and all that. So I just think that that would have been a crazy game, no matter what version of the Bobcats you see. And I just think Montana State has a lot to build on. And like you mentioned, I mean, you don't want to mark down wins before they happen, but I would be utterly shocked if they don't just absolutely blow out the next three teams on their schedule.
Yep.
Then they go to NAU, which will be challenging, but then they come back and I mean, again, you don't want to just check off every single one, but Montana State will be significantly favored. They'll be favored by 10 to 14 points at the bare minimum in their next 8 games. So if you just go boom, take care of business, now you're 8-2 going into the stretch run of your schedule, and you're exactly right back where you need to be. So I just think that
Yeah.
they got to build off. I know Vegan was very he was very stoic as always, but I mean he was like, we need a win, right, man? Like we haven't had. I know that like those guys are chomping at the bit. I talked to Paul Brott for a while, just sort of casually after the game, and he's like, man, I can't tell you how salty I am that the last three times I've put on my pads that we've lost because I'm
Yeah.
not used to this, man. We don't lose around here. But I just think I feel bad for San Diego this week because I think Montana State's going to take it out on the Toreros big time.
Yeah. Yeah. The reality is that you lose a game like that, and it hurts because of course, you want to win a big matchup. But that was a big heavyweight fight, but everything's still in front of you, and this stuff has to motivate you, and it does. You can, as you're referencing Paul Broad and these guys, like, yeah, they're going to be hungry, and they're still kind of ironing out some of the kinks, like it or not. Whether you look at Ohio State and Texas 2 weeks ago. You look at South Dakota State, Montana State. Like your best football is not in week 2. People don't like to hear that, but that's not your best football. Now you still hope that your best that day in week 2 is better than the other team's best. But the reality is that people are they're still figuring out some of this stuff with, terminology and who is your go-to guy, and the just meshing as a unit. The flow of how about the flow of getting in to go into class and school, and when are
Sure.
you practicing? Like, there's so many things that go into this that it's like, okay, we got to get ourselves settled.
Yeah.
And they've got the personnel to be very successful. They're going to have a nice playoff push. They got, key is to stay healthy, but no need to panic. This team is equipped, and the expectations are such that they understand what's at stake, and they'll rise to the occasion. And I'm with you. I would hate to be USD coming into town next week, because it's I'd be shocked if it doesn't get ugly.
Ridin with Ryder, probably presented by the Bobcat Collective. Help Montana State usher their way into the new era of college athletics by visiting bobcatcollective.com to find out more about how you get a membership to help support Montana State's NIL efforts. All right, so several different things to touch on there. One of the main questions I wanted to ask Vegan on Monday, and I did ask him, and I think he appreciated it because he had been thinking about it, certainly. I asked him, I said, it seems to me that both the potential of their football team and the youth of their football team is directly reflected on their special teams and the plays that guys are making right now on special teams, but also the giant mistakes that they're making. And the one thing you could say about Brent Vegan is there's a lot of coaches, and I mean, you know this as a guy that coached for a long time. There's some coaches that if there's a problem, they try to either mask it or deny it, or they're in denial of it, or they just wash over it, or they try to make an excuse and go this way. Vegan is very good at saying, okay, this thing that we're doing right here is not good enough. We got to fix this. He is very self-aware within the scope of his program. The fact that they've gotten 2 punts and a kick blocked, like that is not, he is not going to accept that. Like, that is going to be something that is drilled over and over and over and over again until they fix it.
Yep.
But also, he said this when I asked him that question. He said, last couple of years we've had so many veteran guys that weren't stars, that weren't starters, so we could stack up our kick teams and our punt teams with guys that are in their third, fourth, fifth years in the program. Now, I mean, I thought Mason Deathman played his nuts off on Saturday on special teams, but this kid was playing 6-man football. You know what I mean? Like, this guy,
Yep.
guy has no idea what's going on. He's an unbelievable athlete. I think he's going to be so good. And I'm not saying he's not a criticism of mine on special teams at all. I think he's playing
Sure.
great on special teams. I think him and Seth Brock are both playing lights out right now on special teams. But either way, there is so many young guys. They have a true freshman kicker. They got a new long snapper. Like, all these different things go into this sort of rebuild of units that were really solid the last couple of years. So I just wonder how much that too is just the transition of guys playing for the first time and sort of just the overturn of the roster and all that goes into that.
Yeah, I can speak specifically to that. I remember jumping into special teams as a redshirt freshman, after going from high school where you play a zillion plays and you're the go-to person, and now you're redshirting and understand the speed, and you're on scout team, and all of a sudden you get your handful of plays each game. That in itself is a really unique feeling to go for. All these kids were studs respectively in high school, and now you're figuring out, like, okay, how do I turn it on, turn it off when I play 15 plays a game, 20 plays a game, and there's nothing more high stake than special teams. It's the only play where the ball is exchanged, right? Like, these are high stake plays. And so how do I turn it on and play with like a focused effort, understanding that it's just going to be like one whack at a time, right? It's not like defense where you can kind of get into a rhythm. And so these young guys are figuring out, what does that actually look like? I'm getting comfortable doing it. What does it feel like to go and play one play? I may wait 15 minutes to play again. It may be 5 minutes, depending on it. And it sounds silly, but it's actually a unique feeling jumping into those games. So these kids are getting used to it. But the effort's there. You can see it, and they're going to get this stuff fixed. Yeah, you don't get to play. If we're going to get punts blocked, like, I can guarantee you there's jobs that are at stake. And if you need to, what we used to do is you're going to put some veterans on some of these kick units and say, we're not going to allow this to happen. And so that means that, I don't know, some of these veteran secondary or linebacker guys, tight ends, they're going to jump into these special teams because they can't afford to get kicks blocked. So they'll get it fixed. The youth will gain with some of the experience, some of these calluses. It'll be good for this team as they're heading forward.
Join Town Pump's Pump It Up Rewards Plus program and never pay full price for fuel again.
Save 5 cents on every gallon every day at any Town Pump across Montana.
Plus, earn and redeem points on your favorite in-store items to get free stuff with our clubs.
Stop in and pick up a rewards card. Download the Pump It Up Rewards Plus app today.
Or visit townpump.com/rewards to register and start saving.
Town Pump. Right down the road. Pump it up. Oh, yeah.
And to me, the big thing they have to shore up is the offensive line. But I think so much of that is because they've got guys playing out of position. And again, last year they made it look easy. But I just think that with the way they run their scheme, especially the stuff that they're trying to play from left to right a lot of times because the quarterback is right-handed, so they want to roll him out to the right. So the power tackle is so important in the scheme. And in the outside zone, he's partners with the right guard, and then the right guard is partners with the center. You have two different partnerships right there that makes everything go. And so then when you're playing your best right tackle instead at right guard, and you're playing your best right guard instead at center, and then you're playing, it trickles down. Then you're playing two redshirt freshmen on the left side. This is not criticism on those guys. I think they've done well for how young they are and inexperienced they are. But you're not playing your best guys at your best spots. And I think that once they get those guys back, that'll help them. But in the meantime, I also think that these next 3 weeks, invaluable experience for those other guys too. So how much do you think they can take a jump forward? Because I think Bastel's probably out for another couple of weeks. He's got cast on his hand, so I don't think he can snap it anytime soon. But that is like a 4 to 6 week injury and a happen during fall camp. So I expect him back sooner than later. How much, though, do you think they could take advantage of having sort of overmatched opponents to get those young guys comfortable up front?
Yeah, you just can't quantify the value of reps and reps against other Division I athletes, albeit San Diego and Mercyhurst are going to be lesser on the talent level, but there's going to be looks and situations and things that this offensive line is going to encounter that it just goes into your bank of reps. And I know Coach Vegan is so big on that, specifically on the offensive line. There's such a high rep organization and ball club. Like, I know how important that is for Coach Vegan. And so guys like Braden Zimmer, getting these reps, you just get better and better because you're seeing things and you're getting the experience. It's just like anything else in life. You need reps. Whether you're hitting wedge shots and putts or taking snaps and seeing twists on the offensive line at tackle, these reps are going to pay dividends so that your best football, again, is late in the season. It has to be. If they're having some of these same concerns and getting punts blocked and the offensive line is looking out of sorts and we're having this conversation in late October, you and I, this will be a different chat, right? But no need to panic. I think these reps are going to be huge these next couple weeks.
I think that Montana State at the same time is disappointed that they're 0-2, but I think also you don't want to say they're accepting it, but I think they're realistic about it. But also then I think that there is this narrative just around Bobcat Nation, around the state that, okay, well, you're not going to get tested again for, your next 3 or 4 games. You should probably roll through your next 3 at home, afternoon games against non-scholarship teams. And then Eastern Washington coming to town. Who knows if they're spunky again, but they're certainly have lost several steps in terms of the hierarchy of their place in the Big Sky Conference. But from a coaching perspective, how do you not let the guys get complacent and sort of settle into that mindset? Oh, we're going to roll these guys, and instead go out to sort of play. I think Brott said this. He said, "I'm not letting any of these guys not play to our standard." He said, "I'm going to be on these guys' asses all week to get these guys going." How do you do that from a coaching perspective, though, if you're Montana State?
Man, you have this team, this 2025 team hasn't won a single football game. So who are you to think that you're going to roll through this or not prepare a certain way? That one, you haven't earned that, and two, that's just not how the Bobcat football program has been built the last 5 or 6 years. They're going to prepare at an unbelievably high level. They're going to practice at a high level. The expectations are that. And I think it just comes down to your leadership. But ultimately, your job as a coach is to say, look, we're going to put you in the best position to succeed, and we're going to prepare like nobody can in terms of offense, defense, special teams. We're going to get these things fixed. We're going to focus on the fundamentals, but ultimately it comes down to your leadership. It's guys like Paul Brott, it's guys like Caden Dowler to say this is the level of, these are the expectations of play, and so this is a player-led program. It has to be. Any good program is player-led. And so I think these guys have got the good leaders in place. You just got to get these young guys up to speed and on par as fast as possible.
What then what are like the big jumps you want to see? Like, what are the places you'll be evaluating? Because again, I think it's crazy to say because they're giving up 40 points a game. I think they've played great
Yep.
defensively. I think that in terms of the stuff that is hard to teach, like getting your head across the bow, throwing it around, sticking your nose in there, being fearless, like running the ball, like that, they're doing that stuff well, and I think a lot of like the fundamental and execution and like diversity of scheme stuff will come just with experience. You can't know it unless you know it. So I think just for me, incremental steps on that side. And then I think they got to figure out a way to get the run game going outside of the quarterback. For you, what are the parts you want to see improve?
Yeah, I think I share that same sentiment on the offensive side. What's their run game going to look like? Because it's been a little bit confusing. What is that actually going to look like? They got to make jumps in the run game. And then defensively, I think the defensive front I have no concerns on. I think they've done a really good job. They've rotated some guys in. Linebackers look solid. I think you need a Neil Daly to come back just so you've got some depth there because he needs continued reps. He's played some ball, but he needs to continue to develop and grow. Cole Taylor's been great, but I think specifically this is probably because it's in my nature, but just in the secondary, specifically at corner, it's my outside of quarterback. In my opinion, it's the hardest position in sports. And so you're on an island and you've got some young guys. I want to see some jumps there, and you got to get some opportunities, some on the ball production. Balls thrown my way. Am I finding ways to get the ball on the ground? Are we creating turnovers? That's where, to me, the gap has got to close is in the secondary. And they got a guy like Caden Dowler who's stepping in, but you got young guys. I mean, Taki's been in and out. He's been hurt, but I think he's got a lot of ability. JJ Dolan, really, really green. How do you get him along? I just think that secondary it has got to take some jumps forward. And, that and the run game. I think those are the two biggest things that are going to be the measuring sticks.
He's Mike Ryder. You can find him here on the Big Sky Breakdown podcast series and on the Skyline Sports YouTube channel each week. Thanks for doing it, buddy, and we'll check in next week.
Thanks, Colter. Thanks for having me.